Welcome to the Water Laboratory Alliance webcast on handling criminal investigation samples and maintaining chain of custody. The EPA Water Laboratory Alliance, or WLA, provides the water sector with an integrated nationwide network of laboratories capable of responding to natural, unintentional, or intentional contamination of water. The WLA provides training opportunities to support overall laboratory preparedness efforts and individual water sector stakeholders. These stakeholders include first responders, law enforcement personnel, emergency managers, laboratory personnel, etc. This webcast emphasizes the importance of maintaining sample integrity throughout collection, analysis, and ultimate disposal of samples. The purpose of this training is to prepare you for the handling of criminal investigation samples by ensuring that you are aware of how to develop and maintain chain of custody, or COC, that can withstand legal examination. In addition to chain of custody forms, other documents such as standard operating procedures, sampling records, and laboratory logbooks can be used as evidence to support sample integrity. You might have heard the term cradle to grave when discussing chain of custody. This term means that a sample's history begins the moment it is collected and lasts until the moment it no longer exists, its disposal. The sample per se can exist in several forms. For example, the original sample, an extracted sample in an autosampler vial, and sample analysis byproducts. In addition to the physical sample, raw data printouts representing the sample, final reports, and other documentation are part of the sample's history. Throughout sample processing, the sample will change hands many times. The chain of custody, or the unbroken paper trail of who has had possession of a sample from the point of collection until its final disposal, must be retained throughout the lifetime of the sample. This webcast will help you understand what is necessary to provide that cradle-to-grave record that will hold up in court. For example, as judicial activity can often take extended periods of time, and to minimize any possibility of samples being disposed of prematurely, it is crucial that disposal of data and evidentiary samples be authorized by the Analytical Services Requester or other authority. This step should be included in the laboratory's standard operating procedures, or SOPs. Chain of custody is not a new topic. As a result, a multitude of resources exist which provide helpful information on the issue. Various offices of the EPA, the FBI, several scientific organizations such as the Association of Public Health Laboratories, as well as many state and local agencies, have developed literature and training regarding chain of custody. You are welcome to view additional resources that may complement this training at your leisure. At the conclusion of this webcast, a list of informational resources is provided. For the purposes of this training course, the WLA Training Center utilizes an existing EPA resource developed through the EPA's Air Pollution Training Institute, or APTI. APTI primarily provides technical air pollution training to state, tribal, and local air pollution professionals. However, the self-instructional course is applicable to the WLA because it thoroughly covers chain of custody procedures. The course will be used in its entirety, followed by a specialized discussion on WLA stakeholder and laboratory practices. While the APTI course thoroughly covers chain of custody requirements of a sample, it does not discuss other documents supporting the sample's history that may be called into evidence. This two-part approach will provide both a complete and accurate picture of chain of custody procedures, as well as context for application within the WLA. Following a brief introduction, you will be directed to the APTI site to view the course Chain of Custody Procedures for Samples and Data. As part of this training, a test is provided to document your understanding of the subject matter. After successfully completing the test, you may choose to print a certification of your participation. The APTI training takes approximately 1 hour to complete. Part 2 of this course is approximately 15 minutes in duration. Please return to the WLA site to complete Part 2, as it specifically deals with some issues not discussed in the APTI course. When you have completed Part 1 and Part 2, you should be able to define chain of custody, explain how personnel participate in the procedures, explain the role of documentation, and describe how evidentiary chain of custody is implemented. WLA recognizes that each participant involved in an incident, be it first responders, other emergency personnel, utility staff, or an analytical laboratory, is an individual entity with its own practices. Some practices may mimic those of other organizations, while other practices may be unique to a specific local group or laboratory. For instance, the function of a laboratory is consistent from lab to lab. It is to analyze samples and report results. Laboratories often operate similarly due to the regulatory requirements in place for the state or agency under whose certification the laboratory operates. The same method used in different labs is fairly consistent and is often specified by the client or regulating agency. An analysis performed by method XYZ in Laboratory A is fairly identical to the same analysis performed by Lab B. However, all labs have their own characteristics of operation. For example, if a laboratory is small, certain individuals may perform multiple roles. The sample custodian may also be a shipping and receiving clerk. An analyst may also function as a report writer. In contrast, in larger organizations there may actually be multiple people performing these roles. The same is true for first responders and others involved in the incident command process. Some procedures and roles are similar from locale to locale, from agency to agency, while others are unique. Several different groups can be involved in response to a suspected or real incident. Each group operates under its own set of practices called Standard Operating Procedures, or SOPs. How things are done from preparing for an incident to sample collection to sample log-in at the laboratory through sample analysis and subsequent reporting of results may vary greatly from region to region, agency to agency, or lab to lab. As you view and participate in the APTI course, please keep in mind that the APTI course utilizes a limited cast of characters. You will notice that the sample custodian plays several roles in the cradle-to-grave chain of events. This works well for the course. However, in your situation these functions may be performed by other personnel with other titles. Keep in mind how your situation may differ from that presented, and if in fact your process accomplishes an unbroken chain of custody from collection to disposal. Compare how your organization operates, especially look for differences from the specific activities presented in the training. In your organization, is a specific task always completed by the same person? Is there a standard operating procedure detailing how a task is done? After completing the APTI course, test your knowledge by taking the exam. Once you attain a passing grade, return to the WLA site for Part 2 of this training webcast. In Part 2, we will discuss chain of custody more from an evidentiary procedural perspective than as a paper trail from cradle to grave. See you back here for Part 2.